savagely holding the medical equipment as hostage as well to Gaza. To, like, people are going to die regardless. And if they're holding this medical equipment over their heads and saying we're not going to allow this in unless you give back the political prisoners, it's just I think Gideon Levy on Haaretz wrote an article saying comparing Israel right now to the Nazis and saying how using medical equipment as leverage is like what the Nazis used to do, and it's pretty disgusting.
Yeah, it is disgusting, but it's also problematic, I think, because of the problematic as well, that sort of wording, because they can use that as, I don't know, it's problematic comparing Israel and to the Nazis just because of the history and how.
Gideon Levy is a Jewish writer. He's an Israeli. I think he has.
I understand, but they can use that as a way to deflect the actual topic. They can just say you're being anti-Semitic, self-hating Jew or whatever.
Yeah, I know, but it's a good comparison to make. It
is a good comparison. Yeah. Because that's a reality. It's a good analogy.
Yeah. It is pretty gross what they're doing.
Just to correct myself, 80 to 90% of the 256 adult ventilators in the West Bank and the 87 in the Gaza Strip are currently unavailable. That the Gerald Rockenshaw, the head of the WHO's mission to the Palestinians, told the Times of Israel. So I just wanted to correct myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what Hamas wants to do, because they have 2 political prisoners in Gaza that are Israelis and 2 bodies of dead IDF soldiers, and they were willing to do a swap, say give those 2 prisoners back and the bodies back to Israel in return for the elderly Palestinians in Israeli prisons being freed and the young people in Israeli prisons being freed, because they're most at risk from the virus. And if they're kept in like these massive overcrowded prisons in Israel, which is already inhumane as it is, and countless human rights organizations have said they're locking up Palestinians at an alarming rate. So Hamas is trying desperately to get these people freed from prison because they're going to die in there if they catch the virus. And so they're trying to
they're not allowed to see their families either.
No, it's disgusting. And Israel's now just said, we're going to hold ventilators over your heads and say we're not going to allow it into Gaza. And an untold amount of people are going to die from this. It's either going to be in prisons or they're going to be in Gaza. It's just savage what they're doing.
It's sickening. But it says, there's a Haaretz also article, it says Hamas are willing to trade information on Israelis held in Gaza for the ventilators. So there's some sort of, is that the same article?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. There's some sort of negotiations being held, but as you said, it's sickening to understand that they're being held to ransom in a sense. Yeah. Because of prior agreements are now being sort of left for dead because of COVID-19, and that they shouldn't use an atrocity in a pandemic as a leverage. They shouldn't.
It is bad.
But Israel has no shame. So Israeli government. I'm sorry not to categorize the whole people, but Israeli government have never had any shame.
Yeah.
So.
And also in Israel, like the US, they've been protesting as well because Netanyahu has been seriously cutting back their rights in Israel of Israeli citizens. And I just thought it's really ironic, Israel's been cutting back the rights of Palestinians just, for decades upon decades. And now their rights are being impinged in Israel. So, and now they are protesting. So I think it's a bit ironic.
Which just shows it's a nationality issue. It's just because they're Arabs that they're and the rhetoric that a lot of Israelis use is they're Arabs. They want to kill us, and that's what they've been taught.
Yeah,
so
it's bad.
They don't care about if Arabs have their human rights taken away, but when they have their human rights taken away, then that's the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
So
it is not good.
More than 2,000 Israelis stood 6 feet apart in Tel Aviv. Yeah. In Rabin Square on Sunday to protest what they consider the erosion of democracy under the coronavirus era government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yep. ironic to say the least.
So yeah,
Yeah,
very ironic. You tagged me on one of the things on Twitter
I got that.
actually.
Good. Okay. Um,
So do you want to move on to the Venezuela health crisis, or
I
do you
think
want to continue talking
we
about?
we can move on to Venezuela. I think it's
Yeah,
interesting. No, it's not that more. I think there's a lot of stuff happening in Venezuela now because it's an easy time to attack them. And it was the end of last month that the US announced charges against Nicolas Maduro for drug trafficking and narco terrorism,
okay,
which is just
yeah,
absolutely insane. Like, it's got literally nothing to do with it, nothing to do with drug trafficking, and like only a very small percentage of drugs actually come through Venezuela. Like,
yeah,
like all the drugs come, like the majority of cocaine in the world comes from Colombia, which happens to be a pro-US country, and they're allied, so that's why
yeah.
a small portion of it comes through Venezuela. So it's ridiculous that they're going to label
Well, that's the
these
problem.
charges at Nicolas Maduro.
That's the problem with America is that they're fine with countries like Saudi Arabia or whatever that commit atrocities,
Mm,
as long as they side with them. But as soon as there's countries like Libya who, um, there's countries like Libya who question their, you know, who go against what America wants, then that
exactly.
becomes a problem.
Yeah, as soon as they're not a
So
client state, then
America,
everything changes.
exactly, and
Yeah.
that's the problem. America's, and that's not surprising. It's everyone knows that.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's just ironic though, because you have Venezuela and like William Barr, the Attorney General in the US, had put like a $15 million bounty on anyone who gives some information that leads to the arrest of the Venezuelan president. We have also the president in Honduras, whose brother is now has been charged with drug trafficking in Honduras. Like the president's brother of Honduras has been charged with drug trafficking in New York. And while he was being charged, the president himself was a co-conspirator of that case, so he knew about his brother trafficking drugs, and as well one of El Chapo, El Chapo Guzman, the notorious
yeah,
Mexican
yeah,
drug leader.
I
Yeah, he
definitely know.
also one of he like he's also named the president of Honduras as someone who helped. Like he donated money to his campaign, and he's gotten a lot of help from the president of Honduras, which is just crazy. And that the US doesn't really give a shit about what he does, even though he is definitely trafficking drugs. It's just there's no comparison
Yeah,
between him and Venezuela.
yeah. I think it's just America showing their true colors
Mm.
and their unfairness to situations
Yeah, yeah.
politically and socially. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah. Do you want to divulge on um, if that's the right word even further, or is that all you wanted to
Oh
touch
no,
on?
I think it's just like the US has definitely been pivoting a lot more to go back to to putting a lot more attention back on Venezuela. Like over the last few months, it was all Iran, 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 and now it seems to be switching a bit more to Venezuela because and they on at the end of the last month they put out the the bounty for Nicolas Maduro and the arrest warrant for him for drug trafficking, and then a few days later they put out this transitional document saying like how they want the transition plan for Venezuela and how they're gonna get Nicolas Maduro out of power and stuff like that, which is just crazy. But I think if
Yeah,
Donald Trump is going to launch a war sometime in the next year, I think it's probably more likely they're going to focus more attention on Venezuela. They've got oil. They've got more oil than Iran. Iran's a nuclear power. Iran's going to be very hard to attack. And I think Venezuela is more, it's closer to home and it's weaker. It's a lot weaker. It's very poor. And the neighbors of it, Brazil
yeah,
and Colombia, are very hostile to Venezuela. So I think it's the logical place if the US was going to start a war before, the next election. Because Trump probably thinks that's a good idea.
yeah.
I know. People are going to have to wait and see.
And and you shared something earlier on, touching on Iran. You shared something earlier on your Instagram about
Mm.
Iran releasing a document
Yeah.
showing that they've been um, blocked from purchasing medical equipment from South Korea.
Yeah, so
Um,
the Iranian health minister released a document that showed that they tried to buy medical equipment from South Korea, but the South Korean bank, I think it was, blocked that because they said they don't want to get affected by the sanctions. And this goes against like what Mike Pompeo has said and Donald Trump has said and Mike Pence has said. They've all said that U.S. sanctions, doesn't matter where it is, Iran or Venezuela, doesn't affect medical equipment. But this clearly shows it does, and that's why the sanctions right now are so devastating. And tons of UN agencies, like Antonio Guterres, has said the US needs to end the sanctions now. It's going to kill thousands more people. And heaps
yeah,
of human rights organizations have also said the US sanctions are just disgraceful, and they're going to kill lots of people that have nothing to do with politics. So I don't know. It's
yeah.
not affecting the politicians, which the US is trying to make it affect. Like it doesn't affect the top, the Iranians that call the shots there. It just
It
affects
affects
the
the
people in
people
the end. Yeah, and
that
this is
have no choice on government or anything like that, especially in a like
exactly.
struggling country like Iran,
Well,
where
it just makes the people
it's not a
hate the US
democracy.
more. Those people just hate the US now.
Exactly.
And it's also
We always see those.
it gives the leaders political clout to be able to say, "It's not my fault this is happening. It's the US's fault." And now they have proof for it.
Yeah,
You got to. I think it would be smart for the US to take that away from them and say, we're trying to help, but your leaders are the ones who are letting you down. But really, they can all too easily just turn around and say the US is blocking medical equipment coming in. We can't do anything. It's all the US's
exactly.
fault. Mm.
Yeah, it's disappointing, but um, I don't know. I just think that America will slowly, maybe it take a few decades, but slowly understand. Like people will come to realize America's position in the world, and
Yeah, I think maybe
and
that's happening a little bit now with Trump's response to the coronavirus. But people, I think, are still too unaware that, the opposition to Trump is also pretty horrific. Like, they're pretty bad as well. Like, Joe
well,
Biden's pretty much a conservative Republican. So,
well, that's the problem, that it's people understand and people view the Republicans about causing havoc in the world. You've got the Iraq War with Bush, but then you also got Obama, who didn't stop the war. He added on to the wars. He added eight more wars on, and
yeah,
the Democrats are they come off as progressive. They come off as
yeah,
the shining light that they're going to change the world, and they just do the exact same thing.
yep.
So
They're two sides of the same coin.
there's no real opposition. Yeah, exactly. There's no
But
real
the
opposition.
problem though is, I think, is just the media around the world. Like, they're too, like, no one's going to wake up and
Timid.
realize, huh?
They're too timid, and
Yeah,
the ones that do wake up and like try to oppose what's going on don't have a big enough,
no, yeah,
um,
they never get seen.
yeah. So, and then you've got the media like Rupert Murdoch, who owns pretty much all of the print media in Queensland in Australia,
Yeah.
and not for financial gain. It's literally just for political gain.
Mm.
So, you know,
And a lot of his newspapers
nothing's
don't make money, so there's no point for him to hold on to
exactly
them. Yeah.
nothing's fair in this world, and that's something that we've got to understand and try and find ways to push back in
Yep.
in creative ways, and that's something that hasn't really been able to be done right at the moment. So, yeah.
Yep. I think you're right. So should we
But
wrap
yeah,
it up?
yeah, I think, yeah. Well, yeah, thank you very, very much for tuning in. Sorry about all it might be a little bit up and down when you're trying to listen, because there's been some complications when we've been recording, but hopefully it sounds okay, and we'll just
Yeah.
keep working on trying to make it as streamlined as possible.
Yeah. It's probably my fault. I live out in the sticks. Like, there's terrible internet out here.
Yeah, and my problem is that I was supposed to have NBN, which is supposed to be the fastest internet, but they've had problems with my connection, so
And you blame
I'm
the
stuck
Liberal
on.
government for that one.
Well, exactly. Kevin Rudd came in with a great idea to advance Australia's broadband connection, but the Liberal government are in now and they've struggled. So yeah, but anyway, I hope everyone stays safe, stays home, and socially distances themselves from
Yeah.
everything. It'll all be over before we know it.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, guys.